Ryan texted Jungkook a sweet goodnight before leaving to take a shower. Her husband left for a business trip of 2 days to Japan. He was returning after a few hours. Ryan took a shower and got inside the sheets, preparing to sleep. She opened the chat with her husband once again and went through his last messages. Make sure you don't catch the cold. Keep the windows closed. Take care of yourself till I'm there. You can't be careless with something I own. She chuckled and rolled around in her bed. He was one possessive human, wouldn't even let her hurt herself because, according to him, she belonged to him and she had no right to hurt what was his. Good night, princess. Have a peaceful sleep and I'll return before you wake up. Ryan, I miss him already. It's so hard to sleep without you. Goop. She sighed and hugged the plush toy. It took her some time, but she surely drifted off to her sleep. She was too used to sleeping in her husband's warm embrace. It was always a little hard to adjust without him. She opened her eyes when she felt a weight on her body. She squinted her eyes, thinking Jungkook was back, but it felt uncomfortable. And Jungkook's presence was everything but uncomfortable. As her vision cleared up, she realized she was in the arms of a man, off her bed. A man she never saw before. He was taking her somewhere, and it definitely felt so real to be mistaken for a dream. She widened her eyes and looked around. She was still in her home, but he was taking her out. The guards Jungkook left were all over the ground, sleeping or probably dead. She didn't know. Ryan, where are you taking me? Let me go. She instantly pushed him with the intentions to run away. But his hold around her was tight enough for the plan to fail. Oscar, did I disturb your beauty sleep, darling? I'm really sorry about that. Wyatt, who are you? Let me go right now. Oscar threw her in his car, getting in as well, while Wyatt struggled a lot to set free. There were a lot of guards and cars, which didn't belong to Jungkook. Soon enough, the car took off, and Wyatt's heartbeat got so fast, out of fear, and several wrong images of what could go wrong. Wine, my husband is going to kill you. She realized she has seen him before. He owned a huge mafia empire as well, but Jungkook deeply hated him. They were always competing against each other, and Oscar always ended up losing. But getting his hands on Jungkook's most precious gem, he believed he won. Oscar, I always hated that husband of yours, but I have to admit, he's one lucky piece to get his hands on you. Such a beauty. I'm never going to let you go. He smirked as he kissed her cheek. Wine got so scared she instantly moved back against the corner of her seat. Oscar, are you scared? I won't hurt you. Ryan, let me go. She begged, her eyes tearing up due to fear, and she hated being weak in front of him. He didn't look any lesser than a maniac. The crazy psychotic gleam behind his eyes, the piercing sweet smile, and the double meaning behind his words, they all scared her so much. Oscar grabbed Ryan's wrist and pulled her to him. She yelled, but the car jerked to a side before the speed increased. Oscar, what is going on? Driver, seems like we have got a problem. Ryan's eyes filled up with hope as she instantly looked behind, but there was nothing except for his security cars, which was there before too. Oscar, race the car! Ryan winced when his grip tightened against her wrist. She didn't understand what was going on, but a piercing light fell on the car, which was enough to almost blind their view for a moment. The car swung left and right, trying to escape, and that's when it hit her. It was a helicopter right above them, following them, and she had no idea for how long. The cars ahead of Ryan's were struggling to keep up with the speed, and she guessed they were facing a problem as well. It was Jungkook. It had to be Jungkook. She didn't stop her tears this time as they ran down her cheeks non-stop out of relief. All those dreadful and terrifying thoughts coming to an end. Now that she knew, she'll be safe. She screamed when the car that was right ahead of them lost its balance and rolled backwards. Oscar's driver had nice reflexes to avoid the accident, but there would be nothing more than a bloody meat. Oscar was getting angry, and he took out his gun, pulling down the window. That's when she had everything that was happening outside. Too many gunfires, the loud piercing sound of the helicopter, so close to them, and the cars braking and blasting. She closed her eyes and held her palms against her ears to block the noises. Oscar started to fire the helicopter to bring it down. She was scared, the adrenaline pumping through her veins. She just wanted to be home in her bed, in her husband's arms, all safe and in peace. While he brushes his fingers against her hair and kisses her all over. Ryan, please, Jungkook, please, I'm so scared, she whispered to herself. Oscar started to scream about directions, and the car kept swinging left and right at such an insane speed. But then it came to an abrupt stop. She slowly removed her hand from her ears and opened her eyes. The helicopter sound still as loud as it was, but there was no more firing or no other sound. The road ahead was filled with a line of black cars, blocking the whole way. Men stationed outside pointing guns from every way possible left, right, forward, backward, even from the sky. There was one man standing in the middle, the one person whom her eyes were begging to see, her husband, looking more destructive and powerful than those who were fully armed. He stood there all calm, a gun in his hand, which were joined in front of him, as he waited and waited. Oscar grabbed Vine, putting a gun on her head, and got out of the car. Oscar, I must say, I'm impressed, John. But don't you forget, one bullet and her brain is going to turn into a mess. Jungkook, I was thinking about the ways to deal with you, and bullet is not one of them. That would be a little too unfair, don't you think? Oscar laughed. He moved Vine completely in front of him, one hand wrapped around her neck, while the other holding her on a gunpoint. He rubbed his hand against her neck on purpose to fuel Jungkook's anger, to make him angry enough to take a wrong decision. But Jungkook didn't phase, not even once. Oscar, only if you get your hands on me. Enough with the drama. Clear up my way, or I don't need to tell you what is going to happen. Jungkook, it was quite stupid of you to make my guards sleep with the medicine mixed in their food. Instead of finishing them, you called it upon yourself. Oscar squinted his eyes, but then he felt dizzy for a moment. It was quite strong. He lost his balance, and within that blink of an eye, he was pushed away from Ryan and captured for good. Ryan ran towards Jungkook and got in his arms and let out a cry. He threw his gun away before wrapping his arms around his wife and kissed her head. Jungkook, it's okay. I'm here. Ryan, I was scared. I was so scared I don't want to be alone for a moment. Everyone had started to leave now that the scene was over. Oscar was taken away as well. Jungkook's guards getting in their car, leaving as well, giving him space. Only one Jungkook's car was left and one car of security, which was quite at a distance from them. Jungkook made her sit on the bonnet of his car and looked at the finger marks on her wrist and neck. He needed to make sure he knew every pain Oscar inflicted on his wife to torture him well. She kept crying while holding his hand tightly, and he kept wiping her tears. Jungkook, I'm here. No one is going to hurt you ever again. Ryan, don't go anywhere. Don't leave me ever. He kept saying all those wrong things. I was too scared, she said in between her sobs. He cupped her cheeks and kissed her forehead and wiped her tears. Jungkook, stop crying, Ryan. Have some mercy on me. She closed her eyes and he pulled her in his embrace, holding her tightly. He couldn't bear the sight of her crying, looking so scared, and having go through so much pain. that she couldn't forget. Oscar was going to die one miserable death, and he was going to make sure of it personally. He stayed there till her tears didn't stop and her body didn't stop trembling. His warmth provided her with enough affection to only focus on him. He brought her home, tugging her in the bed. Sitting beside her, he applied medicine on her bruises and slept beside her as well. She was not ready to let him out of her sight, even for a mere second. He kissed her before kissing her all over the face and hands. Jungkook, sleep. I'm right here. Vian, I want to handcuff you, so you keep your words with or without your will. He smiled and moved her hair behind her ear. Jungkook, I know how to escape handcuffs, princess. Vian, then the thing they wrap around your neck in movies, and if you try to escape, it gives an electric shock. Jungkook, that might work, but you don't have that, do you? She scrunched her nose out of disappointment and wrapped her arm and leg around his body. Vian, this will work, she said proudly before kissing his cheek and closed her eyes. He kept her close to him and kept whispering sweet words in her ear till she didn't sleep. The next 2 days he worked from home. Didn't leave her side for a moment. Her mental health was more important to him than the desire that was almost killing him internally to take revenge on Oscar. After 2 days, his thirst was finally fulfilled when Vian's best friend came over to keep her company and he could escape her side for a little.